Hi, thanks for joining us on Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCS Heart podcast that allows us to make the mental health victories of everyday Ghanaians accessible, relevant, and relatable. We hope that you enjoy listening to us and learning lots, and we hope you do come back again to learn some more. Now, today's episode. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jennifer. It's so good to see you. Welcome.
Hello, Fosia. Good to see you too.
Good to see you too. For all those listening at this time, this is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and NOCS Heart podcast. Our big aim is to make mental health victories more relevant, more relatable, and more accessible in our society. And it's such a lovely, probably exciting for me to have Jennifer on the call to discuss another pertinent topic about are you well at work? For those who've been following us for a while, you realize that our first published episode was burnout, workplace burnout, and it tied well into the International Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Day theme of workplace wellness. I can't remember. Are you well at work? I can't remember the theme now, but yes, it was our first, and it's exciting to have Jennifer here to talk about that again. As I say, because mental health is health and health is so diverse, it's great to have different views and different thoughts and slightly different topics to expand this. And thanks for joining us for this conversation. So, Jennifer, before I get too excited about the topics, people want to know who you are. Tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do? And who are you?
So, officially, let me take this opportunity to appreciate and acknowledge people like you who have contributed immensely to the discussions of mental health. You know, some years back, you couldn't talk so easily about mental health. It was as though we couldn't have conversations around mental health. But these days, even at the workplaces, we hear people talk about mental health. It's become an issue where people are more relaxed to talk about it. And it's people like you who have been in the media space, who have helped people to come out and speak about it. And so congratulations to you and all those out there who are championing mental health because it's crucial, it's important. Like you said, it is health. And everything about health is important to you as an individual and to employees and even to the employer generally. So kudos to you for this good work. And back to my introduction. My name is Jennifer Yobangye. I've been in the mental health space for about 15 years.
Wow.
In various capacities, initially practicing as a clinical psychologist. I have taught psychology at the university level and at the professional level in some other institutions as well. So let's just say about 15 years in mental health. And more importantly, I am passionate about mental health. I'm passionate about the well-being of people, especially when it comes to the workplace space. Because very often we do not concentrate on that. We think that there are other challenges in life that impact our mental health, but we seem not to pay attention to the workplace. Think about it. We spend so much time at the workplace, over 1/3 of our day at the workplace. And so it's important for us to look at our work environment and how we can make it mental health friendly for us. We can function effectively in that space. Yeah, so that's Jennifer, a mental health professional, a family woman, mother of 4. Usually very shy and quiet until it comes to issues like this. Yeah, so that's Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's nice to experience the not so shy portion of you, and probably an honor to have you appear this way to talk about mental. I love what you said.
Yeah.
We spent 1/3 of our time at work. And if you look at it closely, about the other third is spent either sleeping or getting ready for bed. So you find out that half of your waking hours is probably spent
It's actually spent at work.
At work. And if you have a workplace that is not mental health friendly, then the commute to work alone is also taken from you on your mental health. So really excited to talk about this. I think this is also a passionate topic for me. I've worked in corporate for quite a while, and I've seen the impact of good mental health practices on employees versus those that are not. And it's really nice that we have a professional like you to speak about it today. You have told us a bit about why this topic is important to you. Is there any other reason though why you feel this topic is close to your heart? Being well at work and creating, actually not just going to work and being well, but actually creating workplaces that help us thrive.
So it's personal to me because I have experienced it firsthand, burnout. And interestingly, I experienced it in my capacity as a mental health professional. And all I had at my disposal was the skills I have learned. Okay, so if the environment is supportive enough, it helps you as an individual to overcome those challenges that you face. And thinking about it now, if my workplace, if at the time had put in place the structures to help me overcome that situation, perhaps my path in career may have been a bit different.
Oh,
so yes.
Interesting. That's eye-opening. I don't even know how to react to it, because when I think of mental health and the challenges there, I actually don't think about the trajectory of people's career path. But you're absolutely right. Like, if something is good enough, you probably even pursue it more. So it's just,
Exactly.
I'm just sorry, I'm blown away. I wasn't expecting to be blown away. So
Yeah.
I love this. Thank you so much. So we'll move to the first question. In your experience, what are some of the subtle signs that workplace culture is actually supporting mental health beyond just having policies on paper? I think sometimes we look for the big things, but what are some of the very subtle signs? I will say something. I think when I started on this podcast, maybe a few months after my first few recordings, I realized that leave policies were actually there to protect your mental health. So nobody really says go on leave to protect your mental health. But you find that that is something that actually helps. You get enough rest and all that. But this one is not about simply policies. It's about what are the subtle signs that culture in itself. They may be leave policies, but you could get your leave cancelled all the time. You know what I mean? So to you, what are some of the, and in your experience as well, not just you, but in all your experience as well, what are some of the subtle signs that workplace culture is actually supporting great mental health beyond just policies on paper?
Policies. So it's true what you said about policies. Organizations may implement policies, but even the way that the culture of the organization is may not totally embrace that policy. So you have people who would not go on leave, even though that is actually for their mental health. So an organization that places the mental health of its employees as number one, as paramount for them, you would find that in those organizations, people are more comfortable talking about mental health issues. They are more comfortable to come to work and say, okay, so I'm having a bad day. I am a bit anxious about A and B, and for that matter, I want to take a day off to handle that issue. People are more comfortable to talk about their mental health. There are times people actually come for sick leave and they ask for sick leave, not because they have a physical condition, but because they are struggling with some psychological issue, burnout, but they won't openly discuss it. And so they would come and say perhaps they are going to have a lab test done, or they are running a general test and all that. People like that are not comfortable to talk about their mental health at the workplace. So if in an organization, if people are able to talk, speak up where their mental health is concerned, it's a good sign. And if they are willing to put their mental health first, and where leaders of the organization are able to show leadership where issues of well-being is concerned. Such an organization is, in a way, creating the right environment for people to thrive. And I like the choice of word you use, thrive. It's not just about survival. People need to go beyond survival and to thrive and improve, have a better life, be able to impact the organization positively.
I mean, there are so many nuggets. You did warn that you are not a woman of many words, but there are so many nuggets in what you've just said, because somebody posted on LinkedIn some time back that one sign that you are in a place, a toxic work culture, is when someone posts about toxic work culture and you cannot comment, like, or share. I like
you can comment.
You cannot comment. You can't comment. Someone says toxic, and because you are in one, you cannot comment, like, or share, because people at work are probably on LinkedIn with you, and you feel you get into trouble for commenting, liking, or sharing. So I like what you said, people feeling comfortable. And it's made me think about experiences I've had. Luckily, I've worked in a lot of different corporate places where I could tell a boss that I'm not feeling too well, or I'm feeling anxious about something. And the response is not one of weakness or judgment. You know, sometimes you feel people will feel you are weak or judge. Why are you, you are so scared that you have to go home and sleep? Why? What is wrong with you? You know, so that's just eye-opening for me. And then for leadership to model behaviors and that reinforce good mental. And then when people put their mental health first, it's so simple, but I have seen it so many times. And for me, joining corporate, I was very ambitious. I was a bit confused because my parents are corporate. So I don't know what corporate look like. And then you see people working late into the night and you do it as well. I mean, eventually some of us learned that it wasn't good for our mental health to do that consistently. But then if the leaders, they had already put that in place, then it's already a good working space for me. So I'm again blown away by the simplicity in your answers, but how much weight it carries. Thank you so much, Jennifer. If you are listening to this, remember to like, comment, and share, because you have no idea. And the last few episodes, people would realize I've been saying that when it comes to mental health, you may not get a thank you back from someone who's watched this. It's still shrouded in around a lot of stigma, but you have no idea how many lives you impact just by sharing this with someone else. For someone to even realize that the workplace that they are in may not be great for their mental health, and then would have the tools from this conversation to know how to work around it whilst they are still there. So thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
I will go on to... Yes, please.
It's sometimes we make it seem as though it's really a big issue, but it isn't. It doesn't take much to promote the well-being and the mental health of people in organization. It really doesn't take much. Something as simple as taking short breaks. It has immense benefits to the employee. But we are in a certain system where people want to see you at your desk all the time, to use that to measure you as someone who's performing. But it's actually good for you to take intermittent breaks. Not just for your physical health, but for your mental health as well. So you can imagine that you've sat down for about 3 continuous hours looking at your screen the whole 3 hours. It's not good for your eyes. It's not good for you in terms of your mental health. But if you take time off to just take a stroll, just a 5-minute break and come back to what you're doing, you would see that you're even more productive. So sometimes organizations and even us as individuals think that it takes so much to do this. It doesn't, it really doesn't. It's just the little things. And I say that it really would start with us. I mean, let's not always look to leadership alone, but also to us as individuals as well. What kind of environment do we create in our organizations for each other?
True. You've made me remember a time when in one of the first corporates I worked with, break time was an hour. But you find out that people will go to, it was a manufacturing industry, so there's a canteen. So people will go to a canteen, stand in the queue, eat their food, and be up and away in 30 minutes. Then one day, I think I just got tired and I said, I'll wait the hour. I'll just make sure that I'm back at my desk at the hour.
After 1 hour, yeah.
And I did it consistently. And I realized that the next half of my day was so productive. And I felt less stressed. And even if you come to me with what seemed to be to me as nonsense, I was in a better position to react better. So
Exactly.
what you are saying is so true that it's not always the big things, but very little things can actually help improve our own mental health and the mental health of others if we encourage it. So I just love that you said that, Jennifer. I appreciate this effort so much. Let's move on to the next one. How have you seen successful companies shift from treating workplace wellness as crisis management to making it part of their everyday DNA? And I like what you said earlier. It's about the little things. When it's a crisis, we don't do little things. We do things to fight the fire, even if it's done in a big way. But how do we move from crisis management? And then maybe we can even dwell a little bit on how do companies even get to crisis mode when it comes to mental health? Because as far as we know, we are all fine.
Yes, that's the assumption that we are all fine. And for mental health, unlike physical health, where you may see some signs, and so you are able to readily tell that this person has a problem, or let's say a condition. For mental health, as you carry, nobody knows what's going on with you. Okay, so back to the question. So, like I have said, well, for organizations that I have worked for, and maybe it's because of the kind of environment that I was in, more of an NGO environment, women empowerment, and so there were things that were integrated in the entire culture of the organization. So, for instance, I know for one of the organizations that I work with these were people who were counselors who were giving counseling services to women who have survived domestic violence. And so for most of these counselors, they were positioned at various outlets. And then on Friday, they would come to the office. What we noticed was that when it was Friday, most people were apprehensive because they had to work on their reports. They had a number of things. For women, when it comes close to the weekend, there's a lot happening for us.
There's a lot on your mind.
So what the organization had in place was that on Fridays, you can knock off at 12 or even as soon as you have submitted your report for the day.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and it's something as simple as that. So for most of the employees, what they would do is they would come in early, work quickly on the report, submit, and that's it.
Wow.
That went a long way to help people because then they had a longer weekend, they could relax and come back on Monday refreshed. We are in a system where we look more at the number of hours people sit at the workplace. So we kind of reward people for presenteeism. Just be present, even if you are doing nothing. But if we would focus more on what targets a person has achieved at the end of the day. So for a person working in that environment, all he or she needed to do was to submit a report by close of day. And it didn't matter to the organization if you would come and within an hour you were done with it. You could have your day. That is all you needed to do. So I think for organizations that make it, they look at very little things. And yet these are things that go a long way to impact the health of their employees. And these employees are able to give off their best. They are more productive. They are more creative. And that is what every organization wants of employees.
Wow, you've made me wow. I think for me, it's not just the fact that they could go home. It's the fact that the KPI was very clear. Finish and
Was very good.
submit your report. It's not come to work for an hour or work on your report. It's finish and submit your report. And you can, so you find people come in early and you can avoid that awkward, I have to go for this funeral. You just come in early, do it and then go. So, and the fact that they paid attention to the fact that most of them were women already. A woman had
Exactly.
their mind when it comes to weekends, because if
Mhm.
if it's not some children, something, then it's your family member or your mother or your father. You know, there are so many responsibilities or something at church, or
Mm.
your religious body, because weekends are for you, and therefore any other thing that's not work can take up your time on a weekend. So that made so much sense and so much
Mm.
gave so much clarity. And I love what you said about the little things. I'll chip in a personal story.
Yeah.
When I had my first child, my husband's workplace had just rolled out a 4 month paternity leave policy for the men,
Wow.
which was a big thing. And people even would laugh at the fact that what am I going to do? Some are going to get extra money and all that. But they didn't make it 4 months straight. They said that they could
Mm.
take that 4 months within the first 1.5 years of birth. So 18th month birth of the child.
Okay.
And when I was resuming work, it was so useful because we had someone who was going to help us take care of our baby whilst I was at work and my husband was at work. But my husband
Mm.
had a whole month to just sit at home and help our baby, and our family just adjust to the idea. So whilst I resumed work, he was at home for a month. And after that, the extra months and stuff, sometimes there's maybe a bit of something to do here. He'll be the one to do it. So it's just amazing that his productivity may not have dropped as much as people thought it would, but it was so useful to our family. So imagine we can all go to work with a peace of mind, knowing that there's this
Exactly.
extra time that can be used. And luckily, because the KPI was clear, 18 months or it's gone. If you haven't used it within the 18 months, then so a lot of times my daughter had to go for a checkup and he will be the one to
You would
take
do it.
because he could
Exactly.
use those leave days. So I love how it showed up in. I've never heard of such
Mm.
a setup before, like the Friday report, and
Mm.
I find it so impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much that if there's a business owner, if there's a policy maker, if there's someone of influence watching this, they know that it doesn't have to be a big, expensive thing. The big, expensive thing can be good and helpful.
Mm.
But then there are
Mm.
other little things that we can look at that can create that shift to support employees thriving at the workplace with regards to their mental health. Thank you so much, Jennifer. This is once again insightful. I think I should start hiding how blown away I am. But every question will just leave
It's
me
because
blown
you
away.
are passionate about mental health.
Yeah.
That's what's making you so excited.
Yes. As I say, we want to make the victories known, and this is one victory I'm excited about.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I'm excited about what you just shared too.
Nice.
Maternity leave. Yeah, yeah.
The 4 month paternity leave that goes over 18 months. Honestly, if I can praise God for any organization, I will do that. Now we'll go to the next question. Um, could you share a memorable success story where a small change in workplace dynamics led to significant improvements in team well-being? So definitely we have to know how bad it was, and then what that
Mm,
shift was that helped improve the well-being of the team.
okay. Let me see if this fits what you're asking for. But you remember initially I mentioned that I was in an environment and I had challenges in terms of like burnout, handling
Mm-hmm.
the stress of the job, and it caused me to move out of the area. Okay,
Yes.
so this is another environment which also mental health professionals. And I keep saying this because it's interesting. It's mental health
Mm-hmm.
professionals who are working in organization. And the assumption is that if you're a mental health professional, you should be able to handle the
Yes,
burnout
we
because
have all the
it's something you talk
tools.
about. It's something you help people with. I say one thing, the medical doctor is not free from malaria. He
Exactly.
doesn't get to run away from malaria. If
I've
he is
heard
in
that
a
term before. I'm going
mosquito-infested
to
place, he will get malaria. So the same for mental health professionals as well. So this was an environment where we had mental health professionals, and we would see cases, and it comes with a lot. It's very stressful. Some of the cases you encounter, you know that there's a limit to what you can do for the person because they come with financial challenges and all that.
Oh,
So a
sure.
lot of these counselors or some of them psychologists were struggling with that challenge. So what the organization did was that they had what we called a case conference, where at the end of the week, we would meet together as mental health professionals and discuss the cases that we handled and what the challenges were and even how you felt about the case. That was
Wow.
very helpful because for people like me, I was carrying on the emotions that challenges I had with the employees, or sorry, with the clients onto my job and my personal life. So that case conference was extremely helpful because it was more like a debrief session for us. I don't know if other organizations that maybe the corporates would be able to mimic something, especially people who work with clients, who deal face to face with clients. Look, it can be extremely challenging. And these people go home with whatever challenges they encountered whilst relating to clients, and they have to deal with those challenges themselves. But this intervention that our organization had helped. It was very instrumental. At the end of the day, you discuss some of the things, you laugh over it, and then you go home and you're a lot more relaxed.
I love the brilliance in this solution. And if I'm not careful, I'll call you Queen of Simple Solutions because it's once again so simple. And I'm personally an accountability partner coach, accountability partner, sorry. I help people stay on track with their goals. And I love to ask them, how do they feel? How do they feel? And the fact that as a professional, you have this client confidentiality sort of clause that you have to uphold. You cannot go home and be talking about your cases, at least not all of them, or even to the depth to which it will actually help. You cannot. So having a group of professionals meet who understand what is going on, who understand you before maybe you tell someone that this is it, you have to explain. That's why workplace friends help because you don't have to now explain who the boss was and who their rival is, and they already know. And people speaking about their case, not only getting ideas and solutions that may help with the burden that they are carrying, but also just asking them how do they feel. That check-in is so important. So I love this, Jennifer. Thank you so much. If you are as intrigued as me, we are going on a quick break. We'll be back. Thank you so much. This is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCS podcast where we like to make widely known the mental health victories, making them more accessible, more relatable, and more relevant. And we are honored to have Jennifer on the call to talk to us about workplace wellness. And you have seen so far the simple things that people can do to make a big difference in the mental well-being of the employees and our colleagues at work. So thank you so much. We'll be back very soon. Talk soon. We are back from the break. We have the amazing Jennifer speaking with us about workplace wellness. Are you well at work? And she has shared some amazing nuggets so far. If you're confused, let's say this is maybe this one will be played. Well, this started playing on YouTube. So if you are listening to this on YouTube, it's very unlikely that you just happen to start from the middle. But let's say you're passing by, right? And you heard us speaking. Well, this is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and NOCS podcast, where we aim to make mental health victories in our society. If you're wondering what society we are in, this is Ghana, so West Africa, Africa, more relatable, more relevant, and more accessible. Accessible through people like Jennifer who can share such wisdom with us, relatable because I think we all have enjoyed that half day, free day, and can relate to her examples of just finishing one assignment and going home. And more relevant because workplace wellness is for everyone. I mean, even if you were a mother working from home and taking care of the house, where you are, wellness is very, very important. And there's a lot more to discuss today, including your responsibility in creating workplaces that support great mental health. Not just great mental health, but mental health that helps us thrive. Because the more we thrive, the better we can contribute to our workplaces. So Jennifer, thank you so, so much. This is an amazing conversation. I'm really enjoying it. I will go to our.
Yeah.
I love that. When you say same here, there's so affirming.
Yeah.
So, yes, I found them. So, what role does informal peer support, not the policies, we talk about policies and structures, right? But that informal peer support networks play in workplace wellness? And how can organizations nurture these organic connections without over formalizing them? So let me even give an example. There was a time I was in a place that was very, very high pressure. And I had a friend at work who, oh, it is, I will call her or she will call me and we'll just complain. We'll complain. Then one day we realized that this thing wasn't working for us. So we decided that after the complaining, we will pray.
Nice one.
It makes such a difference because as Christians, we are taught not to be so negative. So when you are praying, you know that this one you can't fall again. And we say, no, the ending.
Yeah.
And it helps us be more practical about our situations. What was really wrong? What are we empowered to do? So I love this question because obviously there are things that organizations can do, and we'll talk about that when you reach there on what they can do to nurture them without over formalizing. I don't imagine we'll even join any group that says bring your record your name, your friend's name here. Now they will not be found.
No.
Talking about formalization, but let's start with peer support. That informal peer support and how it supports wellness at work.
Yeah. So, for the informal peer support, is extremely critical. It's essential in workplace wellness because they provide that safe space for employees to share their struggles and receive support from colleagues. And who better to understand your situation than those who are in similar situations like you? Okay, so the peer support is critical, is key. And the experience you just shared, for me, I had this one person that early in the morning, I just needed to receive a hug from her. And I knew that I could start the day very nicely, and just share my struggles, and she would encourage me and all that. It's very critical. It's very critical. And so we should be able to do this for each other. A colleague comes to work, you can see from the person's demeanor that things are not right with the person. Would you share a moment, spare that moment to ask, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Can I in any way help you feel better? Okay, so it's critical to have people who are around you, who can understand and provide you the needed support. So you see the workplace as a place to go to, and if you have any challenges, there's someone to talk to, not as a place where once you get there, it's all work, and it doesn't matter what challenges that you may be encountering. So the informal peer support is very important. And I've been in a place where would take Fridays, like the Friday, sometimes we just decide that we are going off somewhere to sit and just take a drink and talk. And such encounters were good. We would laugh. It's an informal setting. We just take a drink and share experiences and laugh and relax. And it helped in our bonding. We share experience with each other where there was a strong relationship amongst us. And so peer support is critical. Even as we want our leaders to put in place systems that would make us thrive in the organization, let's see how we can support each other to do that, to have a better workplace for one another to thrive.
I love that. I think some people are actually, and this probably is a follow-up question, I think some people are actually afraid of making friends. I was once warned that I'll say it in you could when papa and for like when you get to work, don't go and make friends with anybody. Nobody's looking out for you, you know. And there's a lot of treachery in workplaces. You think you found a friend and later on realize that this friend was not the friend you thought. But then
and sometimes unhealthy competition because of that unhealthy
competition and
people are not ready to open up.
Yes. What if I tell you I'm struggling? What will you go and say? How will you go and position it in a room where I'm not there? If I'm working on an opportunity that's stressing me out, won't you go and use that and take that opportunity yourself? And also people generally have hurtful experiences. I personally have had some, but also I found that there's been a lot of refreshment really in having genuine relationships at work. And overcome that. But for someone who may not be like me, who is not entirely convinced that everybody is your enemy at work, and obviously people can make mistakes and be forgiven, or make mistakes and you are warned, so you don't go back to the same people again. How would you encourage someone who just feels that they are in it for themselves and no one is in it for them? How can they balance such a situation?
Well, people like that, they feel that way perhaps because of some experiences they have had or what they have heard. But we say that for every relationship, there is that danger. Once you're going for a relationship, you're opening yourself up for hurt.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't go for a relationship. We all still want to get married, but we know that marriages have challenges. Marriages fail. It doesn't stop us from wanting to get married. Okay, so it is a risk that you take. But it's better to find someone at the workplace who understands you and who can be supportive to you than be a lone ranger where you there's no one you can talk to at your workplace. That in itself, I would say maybe you need to check yourself. There is an issue. You can't find a single person at the workplace that you can talk to, you can go to if you have a challenge, then there is a problem.
That is a wake-up call for some of us. If you feel there's no one you can talk to, there probably is a problem somewhere. And we'd have to get to the bottom of the story. Today, my chest is quite uncomfortable. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So my last question on actually this topic, you mentioned that instead of waiting for organizations to change things for us, I want to ask, how then can we, if we feel, for example, an organization insists that we close late every day, and we realize it's taking a toll on our mental health, or we notice something that really isn't helping someone who may be struggling, they may not, and we've learned from previous episodes that not everyone has a mental health disease, but nobody's immune to stress. If the stress is high enough, it will get to you, and you may not even have a mental health disease. So you can see that someone is struggling, but there's no protection. There's nothing that they can do. Some people actually have been burned by their HR colleagues that they don't trust them anymore. Others to just have a general mistrust from what they've heard. It could be that their HR is actually very supportive. So when it comes to just having a colleague, how do we, as untrained, you've been in clinical psychology, that's a trained profession. Some of us are not trained in that space. How do we help? How do we make a difference when it just feels like the organization could do better? They may not be bad, they could do better, but they are not. How can we step up for ourselves and our colleagues when it comes to workplace wellness?
I think that the minimum you can do, the least you can do is to at least be there for people that you see are in a situation that they need support. Be there and a listening ear. So an employee, colleague is at work, you can see that he or she has a challenge, you get to talking with the person opens up to you. Sometimes if the organization doesn't provide that environment for the support that he needs, and such a person requires further assistance, you can encourage her to seek, or him or her to seek mental help from an institution or from a health facility. And these days we have a lot of professionals who do freelance, they are available. And so such people, you can refer them for help. What we should know is that our mental health, just like any physical health, we need to pay attention to it. So if you think that you're having a challenge and there is someone who can help you, do not feel bad about it. Go and talk to someone about it. And so if you notice a colleague has a challenge, provide some support. But like you said, if you're not trained in the area, so there are some things you cannot do for the person, but you could at least refer the person to a professional for further assistance. Okay. But we should get talking in our organizations. We should talk about these things and let our organizations realize that these things are important to us. And so they need to be up and doing and put in measures to help us as employees. Because you see, when we as employees we call ourselves the human capital of the organization.
Yeah.
And if we are at our utmost best, we are more creative, our decision making is better. And all those things benefit the organization. It comes to the benefit of the organization. And so the organization should be interested in it. So when we go for our meetings, let's raise these issues. Let's let them know that leadership must take a step to help the employees, put in place policies and systems that will help them thrive. So it comes with one person's action at a time. Just speak up about it.
I love that. I remember when you said be attentive, provide a listening ear. And something, just be kind, just be a nice person. Because you're struggling with different things. And sometimes that smile, that hello, that genuine, not how are you, I'm fine, and you just gone, but how are you? And listen to
genuine interest, yes.
Genuine interest, not, hey, how are you? And I once had a boss who would ask about our colleagues' children, and you could clearly see this. She wasn't listening, and it was so insulting because, like, if you don't want to know about my child, don't ask. Like, so, like, show genuine interest and ask how you can help. I love that because sometimes for those of us, and I like to think myself quite widely read when it comes to mental health. Sometimes I think that we want to go into problem solving mode and we start solving problems that may not even be helpful. They want you to just sit quietly and allow them to cry, or do you want to sit down or give a solution to something, or even like my other colleague, just complain together. Maybe afterwards you can consider praying. So I love how you've empowered us to take action, even if we feel the organization is not, and how we can also take action when we feel the organization, like raising it up in meetings and in safe places where some decisions can be made. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We will go to our last but one question, which is, when you think about workplaces that are truly thriving, so let's move away from the ones that have issues that really are just creating survival modes for the employees. But when you think workplaces that are truly thriving, and I love questions like this when it comes to this podcast, because we are talking about victories. You can't talk about victories without the challenges, but there are a lot more victories too we can celebrate. What's surprising for me? Let's say I'm just in shock with some of the things you said already, but maybe for you, what are some of the surprising or counterintuitive practices that you've noticed that others might learn from? You keep talking about the simple things. What are some that you just go like, I never thought about that. Does that actually work? It actually works. That other companies, other workplaces can learn from.
Okay. So you know the example I shared earlier
Mm-hmm.
about people closing early.
Mm-hmm.
Ordinarily, people would just say, oh, that means the man hours have reduced. That
Mm-hmm.
should affect productivity. And so, um, why would you want people to get off so early?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Their contract say
very often,
hours a week.
eh, yes, most leaders will say, no, this would affect us. But you see, like you shared earlier, when you take that break and you come back, you are more productive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So organizations should look at the very, very simple things. Okay. And one of the things that I think organizations can embrace is prioritizing. Very often we want things to do things, we want employees to do things in a particular way and be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would make it clear to employees that it's okay to make mistakes and
Mm-hmm.
yet ready to correct them, they are more relaxed and they are able to take decisions, knowing that if they make a mistake, it will not more like it will be taken up against them, but they can, as long as they take steps to correct it, it's accepted. Thriving workplaces must prioritize uh, imperfection and vulnerability. It's okay for you to be vulnerable. It's okay for you to come and that day you are not feeling too good and able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
should They should encourage people to take risks and make mistakes. You find yourself maybe reporting to a certain boss who thinks that everything should be perfect. And so at every point you are afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah.
That in itself affects the employee's confidence. The person may not perform at his optimum best. But if you have a boss who allows you to make mistakes and learn from them, and then he's able to give you feedback and pinpoint to you things that you could have done, I mean, to make the situation better, it helps you as an individual. So you are not at the workplace and moving around as if anything could go wrong at any moment, and you are just, I mean, ready. You are thinking at any point you're going to make mistakes.
Mm, 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 mm. I love that about the making of mistakes because you would think that if we just allow people to make mistakes, that's a lot of costs. We lose time, we lose money, we lose clients. But
Yeah.
it is what you added that is so important that if you do make a mistake, you will be corrected and you will
Mm.
be corrected respectfully. I think that's the fear of making mistakes, not the fear of the mistake itself, but what happens afterwards. People will leave me to continue and I will not learn, or people will
Mm.
shout at me disrespectfully and I will feel bad. But if I know that I make a mistake and there is a lot of respect that comes in the correction, and the person is actually concerned about my well-being over just the perfection that they want to see, it makes a difference. And I think that even goes to
And more concerned about your ability to learn from the experience.
lovely, lovely. I love that you said that ability to learn from that experience. And some of us who are watching this maybe in the corporate environment, but think about your religious bodies. Think about the people
Mm.
who work for you at home, that gardener, that house help. Think about the different workplaces that you are involved in and how you can take these nuggets and make a difference. Think about the person who is helping your mother at home when you go and visit. What do you say to that person? Because suddenly use your family home, but for them it's a workplace. It's amazing what you said, and for me, I am I'm advised. I've been advised by this and what you said. Jennifer,
But
you
also,
something.
sorry, not to cut you, but do you know that the one thing that motivates me in any work environment,
What is it?
the environment that allows me to learn. For
Mm,
me, learning is a strong motivation. So if I am in an organization that gives me opportunity to build myself up, to learn, to develop, that is motivation for me. And for a lot of employees, that is the situation. So if the organization will allow people to make mistakes and learn from them, feel comfortable to know that once I make a mistake, I will be corrected, I will learn from it, I would be encouraged to move on and to do better. That in itself, for me, is motivation.
Very, very, very true. If we look back on our career, some of the bosses we are thankful for are not those who just let us do what we want, but those that helped us be better our previous selves every day. And it takes a lot to be that concerned about someone, to be able to call them out and then also put them on the right path. Jennifer, this has been an amazing conversation on workplace wellness. I, for one, didn't expect the turns it took. Maybe because I'm used to some of the conversations on workplace burnout and workplace wellness, that I didn't realize how much prejudice I had towards the topic. And all these things that you shared, personally, I feel I'll go back being a better boss, go back being a better colleague, go back being a better advocate for mental well-being. So thank you so much. I appreciate this. Now to my favorite question of all, because I feel it's so difficult and I'm glad I don't have to answer. We've talked a lot. We've gone from what organizations could do to what we can do ourselves, to the little things, to even bigger things with regards to policies, realizing that human beings are working for us and the human beings are actually capital, human capital. We are employees. And when we are our best selves, we give off our best to the company and we thrive, the company thrives as well. We've said so much, but if you were to pick one thing that you want us to absolutely remember, let's say we forgot everything that has been discussed in the last hour or so, and there was one thing we should absolutely remember about being well at work and creating workplaces that help employees thrive, not just survive, thrive. Jennifer, please, what would that be?
Okay, so I have a message for let's say it's directed to two entities, organization, and to the individual. And it's that let's not see to the organizations, I'll say, let's not see mental health and wellness as just another box to check. And so would implement employee assistance programs and check and say, okay, yes, we've dealt with the mental health of the people, or we implement a policy, yes, and this would affect the mental health of people. And so that is it. We just check it. It's a culture that we should build. We should build in the organization. So anybody enters there, the person knows that this is an environment that seeks my mental health. It's about creating an environment where employees feel seen and heard and supported. And to the individual employees, look, we create the environment ourselves. We have the power to create that environment which will make us thrive where our mental health is concerned. So be the supportive peer to your fellow worker. Create that environment for that other person to also thrive. Do not frustrate the work of another person. Be there and support them to do their work. So we can also be that change that we want to be seen in organizations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jennifer. This has been Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCSR podcast where we seek to make the mental health victories in our society more relevant, more relatable, and more accessible. We've had the wonderful Jennifer tell us about workplace wellness. We hope to see you soon for another topic. And please remember to share, like, comment. Remember that every little step, and this was from one of our previous speakers, that every little step towards better mental health counts. So that sharing, that liking, that commenting would count for someone. Even if it's not yourself, someone else would be so grateful that you did. They may not come back to say thank you, but they'll be grateful that you did. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and Innocence Heart Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and we hope you learned something new. We look forward to you joining the next episode. We can't wait to see you soon. Bye.